I got back into independence, started wrestling. Uh, but some reason, I grew a big set of testicles during that time. And I was like, I want this job. So I went back to WCW unannounced. I go inside. I go up to Paul North's office and say, "Hey, Paul, can I talk to you for a little bit?" He said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And it's like, "But yeah, come in and talk." And I was like, I had all my information. I said, "Paul, I'm ready for this. Like, if you ever need me, I'm ready. I'm telling you, I'm ready. I want to prove it to you. I want to prove it to everybody that I'm ready." And then I go home, and then a week later, Paul calls me and it's like, "Hey, Jimmy, we need you for Saturday night." I was like, "Saturday night? Wow, that's awesome. This is my favorite show. This is great." It's like, "Oh, yes. Just tell me where and when. I'll be there." And say, "Oh, it's in Amherst, Massachusetts." I'm like, click. Where the is Amherst, Massachusetts at? Like, I have no idea. I'm like, "Oh no." I'm 18. And I only traveled once in my life. I only been on an airplane one time before wrestling. So and I was with my parents, so they did all the parent stuff. So I get the airplane ticket. I'm 18. I get to the airport. I'm like, how do I check in? I don't know how to check in.
Yeah.
And then I check in, and I was like, okay, now go to the gate. I'm like, where is Amherst, Massachusetts at? I know where I'm flying into Boston. So I pull out the map and I'm like, oh, Amherst is like 2 hours west of Boston. Like, how am I going to get there? I don't know how I'm going to get there because I'm 18. I can't rent a car. And I'm like, oh, how I don't know how this works. And thank God for Shark Boy. So I saw Shark Boy at the airport. He saw me lost and said, "Hey, Jimmy, how you getting there?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Oh, just come with me. I'll take care of you." So I rode with him. And even when we get to the hotel, I'm like, I can't get my own hotel. I can't check in. I don't have a credit card.
Wow. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he took care of me that first Saturday night taping. And then even when we get to the building, like, remember, I'm like such a fan still. I walk in and I see all these wrestlers. I'm like, oh my God, there's Viano 4 and 5. Oh, there's Juventud Guerrero. There's Prince Ikea. Like the Armstrong brothers, like the guys I watched on Saturday night. I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. I was like, it's cool. But and again, I didn't really know how TV production worked for wrestling. So I don't know what's going on. And I said, oh yeah, go look at the board, see who you're wrestling. And then I look at the board and I don't even see my name, right? I'm looking down, but I see my first and middle name. My middle name's Carson, so I see James Carson. I'm like, that's got to be me, like it can't be two James Carsons here. I asked him, oh yeah, that's you. He said, can I go by my wrestling name instead of my first and middle name? So yeah. What's your wrestling name? I say Yun Yang. So okay, Yun Yang. Yun Yang versus the Demon, Del Torborg. And I was like, yes, I know Del. He's my friend. We train together. It's in wrestling, it's so much easier to wrestle somebody that and it's a stranger. And so that we put a match together, and I'm so nervous, and so it's just so nervous. I remember. I'm not a religious person, but I remember praying, oh, please help me get through this match. But that's something I don't do, And then once I walk through the curtain and all my nerves go away, we had a great match, and then afterwards come back and they say, "Oh, that was really, really good. You guys are going to be the main event for this Saturday night taping. On when it airs on TV, you guys are going to be the main event." I'm like, I'm main eventing my first WCW Saturday night. That is crazy,
That's incredible.
That's crazy, and after they told me that, I said, "Oh yeah, well, we're going to bring you back to the next set of tapings." And then that next set of tapings, they came up with the Jung Dragons, Jimmy Hart, saying, "Hey, baby, I got 3 count over here. They need somebody to wrestle." So we got Kazuhashi, we got you, and that other wrestler's like really, really good, but he's from West Virginia. We're just gonna put a mask on him and call him Jamie Son, and we're gonna create Young Dragons, and you guys are gonna wrestle 3 count. So
Yeah, I mean, I loved the Young Dragons. I loved that period of time in your career. What was that period like of kind of being paired for three of you in the Young Dragons?
that was awesome. I just remember I'm an 18-year-old kid. I did Saturday night, and then now I'm becoming a character on WCW. I'm like, this, it's such so real for me. And then getting to wrestle Shannon, Shane, and Evan,
Yeah.
and the chemistry, we all had the same mindset. Let's go out there and just steal the show every time.
Yeah.
That was our mindset. Like I was like, those guys were awesome. Like, and even with Jamie and Kaz, like, all 5 of those guys pushed me so hard to do as best I can, but I was so green in the business. Like, if I didn't have those guys, if I didn't have Jamie and Kaz on my side and those guys pushing me, like, there's no way I would have lasted in WCW, so.
I mean, as you say, I mean, it was a real bright spot in kind of 2000s WCW where, behind the scenes, everything was kind of coming off the rails and leadership was changing left, right, and center. The work that was going on between the Young Dragons and 3 count was like a real high spot of WCW TV during that time. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't even understand the business part of it at that time. I just
No.
knew I had like 5 different bosses during that time, So I was like, I'm just happy to be here. You put me on Monday Nitro and the Thunders and the pay-per-views, and then you guys are going to wrestle on Starrcade. I'm like, I don't know how I could complain about anything, I'm like, I don't, whoever didn't show up to work that day or whatever kind of business decisions that y'all are doing. I'm like, I'm here and I just love to wrestle. So it's like,
Could you, because I know when the WWF buyout of WCW happened, I mean, it certainly caught all of us fans unawares. Like, it was insane how quickly that happened. I still remember, watching that final Nitro in Panama City and just like thinking like, this is like the Twilight Zone. Like, this is just so surreal. Could you see it coming beforehand that WCW, because there was lots of talk of WCW being sold, and there was Eric Bischoff was trying to put together a team to take over WCW. In those kind of last months, were you seeing things changing and thinking, I'm not sure I've got a future here, or were you just kind of going with the flow?
Yeah, I was definitely going with the flow, but like as a WCW guy growing up, and even now, it's just like I would never thought WCW would go out of business. Like, even with the bad business and the decisions and all that kind of stuff, it's like WCW is like it's like a staple in the world. It's
Yeah.
not going nowhere. Like, and we have all these rumors about who is buying it, Bischoff, and like, and all the talks about it getting bought by someone. So,
Yeah.
but like even that last Nitro, again, it was in Panama City. So like, I'm from Georgia, so all my friends found out that we're doing Nitro in Panama City during spring break. And they was like, "Oh man, this is awesome, Jimmy! Please come down early. Like we're gonna do spring break. You're a WCW wrestler. We're gonna have a good time. Like it's gonna like a spring break time. So we get down there early, and that whole week, I'm just having fun as a 19-year-old WCW wrestler on spring break. So I'm just having a lot of fun. Just say that we'll just
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And I just remember going to Nitro, and I say, okay, like this now it's Nitro time to go to work, and I walking up and we see all this WWE signage, like it's talent relations that way, talents that way, catering's that way. And we didn't have that in regular WCW. I'm like, oh, wow, this is different. And then we have the talent meeting and get everybody in the room. And we're sitting there and all of a sudden Shane McMahon walks in. I'm like, whoa. And then Briscoe and Pritchard walk in behind him, like, and then I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm like, oh, are they really here? I was like, and then And then they told us what happened. We bought WCW. Tonight we're going to put the last Nitro on, but we're going to try to rebrand it and do our own WCW. And like, oh, okay, yeah, like okay, like. And then they say, oh, the Young Dragons, you guys have a match with Rey Mysterio and Hoovy, and then with Shannon and Evan in a three-way tag team match. I'm like, okay, now thinking about wrestling, and then we have the match and we kill it, and then come back, and I'm like, man, but I'm still such a fan at heart. I don't want to sit in the back and watch the monitors, on the wrestling on the monitor. I like to sneak out in the balcony and see it live because I like the live energy. So like watching it from the like from the balcony, and the angle, I'm like, is the greatest angle I've ever seen in my life. You got WWE versus WCW, you got Vince versus Shane. And during the day, they told me that they're going to pick my contract up. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, this angle is so cool, and I'm going to be a part of it. Like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then after I watch the rest of the show, I go back in the back, and then like reality hit me. And I walk in the back, and everybody back there is like crying and hugging each other. I didn't realize 95% of the people just lost their jobs.
Yeah.
So I was like super excited about the angle and got my contract, and then I was really sad about what happened to 90% of the company. So